Hello, San Diego Comic-Con. How are we doing today? We good? I was expecting to have to do the whole, come on, we can do better than that, but that was pretty good. Well done. Thank you very much for attending our panel today on creating a believable world in Life is Strange 2. Are we all Life is Strange fans? Yes! Love it. You guys will know that Life is Strange is a series that truly encapsulates and excels at telling some amazing stories. They're emotive, they're immersive, and they're quite heart-wrenching. And today, we are going to discuss with two of the DontNod team just how they do that. So, my name is Lucy. I will be your host today. I've flown in from the UK, as you can probably tell by my accent. I make the community videos on the official Life is Strange YouTube channel, going into deep dives and Easter eggs and things you might not know. So do make sure you're subscribed over there. I'm sure you all are. I'm sure. Yeah? You're all subscribed? Yeah? Okay. Without further ado, we are going to crack on with the panel, so please join me in welcoming two very special guests from the DontNod team. We have got the lead writer, Jean-Luc Cano, and the co-creative director, Raoul Barbet. Give them a great round of applause. In some very, very special cosplay. Welcome, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
They worked very hard on their hot dog man costume today.
Transformation.
Looking great, guys. Looking great.
Thank you. We stay like this.
San Diego Comic-Con.
Welcome, everyone.
Hooray! How's it been so far for you guys?
Great. Perfect. Yeah.
Let's talk about some Life is Strange 2, shall we? So we're currently just over halfway through the story. We are 3 episodes in, with episode 4 just around the corner. But let's go back to the start and talk about the story so far. So what has happened so far? Starting with episode 1, of course. Oh, by the way, guys, there will be spoilers, obviously.
After the first Life is Strange, we met with Jean-Luc, so he was a writer of Life is Strange 1, and with also Michel, the other creative director, with me. And we decided to tell a new story with new characters in the same universe as the first Life is Strange. And we wanted very quickly to talk about an important subject, the education. And we finished with the story of 2 brothers who had to flee from their hometown of Seattle, and we decided also very quickly to have the power on the other character, not the main one, not the avatar of the player, because this, I would say, the subject of education take all its sense with the fact that if you educate someone in a good or bad way, it could have a lot of consequences, and it was interesting for us to talk about that. And of course, if your little brother has got a huge power and can destroy a house, those consequences are much more interesting. So the idea was to be able to not have directly the power, but have very important consequences of your choices on every action, like dialogue choices, interaction, etc. So it was the very beginning of the game. Here you can see a lot of screenshot from episode 1. So the first part of episode 1 in Seattle was really, we wanted to recreate a bit the mood you had in the first season, like having a little cocoon for Sean with his friends. He just want to party, have fun, etc. And after like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, we wanted to break that. And you've seen this terrible incident with their father in order to really launch the real Life is Strange 2 and the game on the road. So it was the idea, even with the music, with the mood, with the light, to have the feeling of the first Life is Strange in Seattle, and to break that, to be able to begin the journey.
On the ground! Don't move! Oh.
What are we gonna do now?
There's nothing we can't do.
It's quite unique in that we did the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, which was sort of a free playable demo that really brought people into the world of Life is Strange 2. So how does that tie into the story of Life is Strange 2 and the brothers?
We knew the fan community of the first Life is Strange was really in love with Max and Chloe, and we wanted to give to introduce the new character of Life is Strange 2 with a small adventure, which is the Awesome Adventure of Captain Spirits. And in the end of Captain Spirits, we had the presentation of Sean and Daniel, but we haven't said at this time there will be the 2 main characters. So Captain Spirits was meant to be a standalone, but also a spin-off of Life is Strange 2.
How have you reacted to the community's reaction to Chris? Because a lot of people love him.
Yeah, it was, like Jean-Luc was saying, I think it was quite stressful for us to create new characters and to show that you won't have Max and Chloe anymore in this story. So having a new character and seeing players loving him and wanting to be part of his life was something very important for us, because we knew that with Sean and Daniel we have to do the same again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Chris is also, when we designed it with Jean-Luc, it was talking about the childhood, the imaginary power of a child, a 9-year-old child alone at home. And of course, it will resonate with the story of Life is Strange 2, where Daniel has the same age and has a real power. So it was, of course, this parallel was interesting for us.
Of course. And then going into episode 2 of Life is Strange, just quickly, what was the recap in that episode?
It was to ask this question of what is really your home and what is your roots. So yeah, that's why we bring them back to the grandparents.
Look who's here! After all this time.
And you see again Chris to close a bit his storyline and know a bit more about his father and himself. So yeah, those scenes where Daniel and Chris are together were really, really cool to write and to shoot. The fact that, of course, you got Sean know about the power, but not the other one. So it's quite interesting, even to be the player to be here in those scenes. So.
And then episode 3 was quite different. We had the inclusion of the drifters. Jean-Luc, do you want to talk about episode 3 real quick?
Yeah, episode 3 took place a few months after the end of episode 2. And you see Sean and Daniel that found like a new family with a drifter band, a lot of colorful people and a lot of different characters. So they are working in cannabis field to gather a lot of drugs. And this episode is really about the rebellion of Daniel, because you know when you are raising a child, there are the moments when he wants to take his independence and he wants to be free. He feels like an adult, so he's in rebellion against all authorities, and the authority in this case is Sean. So Daniel is acting a little bit like a rebellious child, a rebellious teenager in front of him.
I'm not a kid anymore.
And at the end of this episode, something really bad happened. And in episode 4, so the story.
No spoilers. So the Life is Strange games have always been set in the real world with a twist of the supernatural, but the brother story is completely different from the first game and the campus mystery that formed. In what way are the characters of Sean and Daniel sort of a reaction to Max and Chloe from Life is Strange 1?
When we begin to work on the Life is Strange 2 project, it was really, we ask ourselves what is the DNA of Life is Strange and what are also the story and the themes we want to explore. And having those, really it's I think the key word is really education. We really wanted to talk about that. What is to take care of someone else? What is it to educate someone? And so very quickly comes this sisters or brothers setting, and I think we wanted also to move on and to create a new story, so we choose all those different settings. We wanted this road trip format since the beginning, to be able to really talk about meeting a lot of different people, living in the wild extra. So very quickly those characters came out, and it's a lot of back and forth between Jean-Luc, Michel, and I, and the team. We discuss about some things they want or not, or extra, and in the end we really add this brotherhood. So it's really different from Max, for sure, as we want also something realistic as what is to be a teenager in USA nowadays. You can find a lot of links between also Max, Sean, or other characters like in the Drifters. Of course, we know a lot of people love the Drifters, but we try to create just realistic characters with their own feelings, their own way of living. So
So you mentioned there that you took a road trip and you decided to go down the path of the brothers going on a road trip as well, rather than just being in kind of one central location. What made you just decide to take that route? Why did you go with that journey kind of aspect?
The first season of Life is Strange took place in one area. It's Arcadia Bay. And for the second season, we wanted to challenge ourselves to explore new way of writing, new way of directing scene, new characters to meet. So the structure of the road trip came for us because it allowed us to travel through America and meet different people, see different locations, and also by this talk a lot of different things we want to explore.
You're on your way to becoming official road warriors, my dudes.
Obviously, the two lead characters are young Mexican Americans. So what new story avenues opened up for you guys when you decided to make them Mexican American?
It links really to the story. At the beginning, we wanted this road trip, we wanted to talk about some, for us, important society subjects.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got some issues also in Europe or in a lot of parts of the world with those kind of subjects, and it was interesting for us to talk about some cop violence, racism, etc. I think it's part of our world, and it's interesting to talk about it and to put the player in situation. The idea is not to say this is good or this is bad or make political statement, but just I think video game is really strong to put players in situation where they can think about this situation and choose their own way and their own story. So this is what we try to do with Jean-Luc, and it was the same for Life is Strange 1. What is it really to be a teenager? What is it really to have problems with social harassment, with friends? You don't really know how to deal with friends sometimes, and you don't really know who you are going to be as an adult, etc. So it was the same idea. We wanted realistic setting. Here, the fact that Sean and Daniel are half Mexican have some consequences on this road trip, of course.
When you took your own personal road trip through America, how did that influence the game? And do you have any cool stories from the road that you can tell us? With keeping it PG though, nothing too crazy.
I had a road trip with Michel Cord, the second game director of Life is Strange. We went from Seattle to Los Angeles. We traveled a lot, and there are some locations we shot with our camera. And I remember that moment we were on the car, and I was filming with my iPhone the streets that running, and there was this guy in a gas station with a chainsaw.
Great way to start a story.
And he was carving some woods to make some little trolls, Say, okay, that's really nice, and that's why in the first episode of Life is Strange 2, in the gas station, you got all these sculpted
creepy bears
in the wood. It was something we saw during our road trip.
That's awesome. So you guys are obviously French.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Sorry for the accent.
I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going somewhere.
This is the best level we have.
But of course, the Life is Strange games are set in America. So what process do you go through to make sure that you get the details right? Because the culture difference is quite significant. I remember in the director's commentary for the first Life is Strange, there was a moment where Max and Warren meet, and you were going to have them air kiss, because you do in France, and then you had an American writer saying, nah, don't do that. Americans don't do that. So how did you do that for Life is Strange 2?
Yes, I think this is a difficulty. We don't want to be like the French guys doing some cliché stuff about America, etc. Because we know a bit about America, but with thanks to movies or TV series or this kind of stuff. But sometimes you can reproduce some cliché also.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us. That's why we travel a lot here, to be sure to do interviews, take photos, take also sound, ambience sounds, to be sure it's accurate for environment artists, for characters, but also maybe even for textures on the wall, this kind of stuff. So I think we have to be careful with that, even in the dialogues, to be sure, as it's teenagers, it's quite difficult sometimes. Even with French teenagers, sometimes we don't understand. So we have to, be careful to write it the right way. And that's why we have a lot of American writers who help us on that. And we work with the voice actors also. a lot to be sure it's accurate.
Here, let Lila the Love Witch work her magic.
Okay, just don't make me sound like a loser.
I said matchmaker, not miracle worker.
Let's discuss choice and consequence, which is a key mechanic within the games. It was vital in Life is Strange 1, and it's expanded even more in Life is Strange 2. How intricate is that mechanic, and how exactly does it work?
You know, in the first Life is Strange, when you took a decision with Max, you saw basically the immediate consequences of the decision. And of course, you have the possibility to rewind. But in Life is Strange 2, when you are shaping the behavior of Daniel with your action, with the choices of dialogues, with everything. So you don't have immediate consequence of something, but Daniel will evolve regarding a lot of decisions you are taking. It's not, it won't be good or bad regarding one decision. It's only about a lot of different choices you are going to make. So this is basically the main difference between the two games. Because at the end of the journey of Sean and Daniel, you could have really different behavior of your little brother according to your decisions.
I think on a design point of view, it's important to have, we really want to tell a story, and when Jean-Luc is writing the main story, you've got like the beginning, the ends, the endings, and we've got a lot of branches, but we don't know yet how we will be able to have different scenes or different sequences. So I think it's important to give to the players the feeling that this is his own story, but also to stick to the story we want to tell ourselves. For example, you can do what you want in Life is Strange. You have some choices, and we try to have as much as possible choices, but to have also believable characters. So for example, for Daniel or Sean, Daniel will be quite different, but also will work into our story. So it's to find the right balance between freedom and also, I would say, have a believable story in general.
Whilst we're on the topic of choices and consequences, I'm going to give you a bit of a hard question now. So some of the players out there did mention that they felt a little bit forced into some aspects of the game. So for example, in episode 2, going to the Christmas market, or in episode 3, going along with the heist. How do you respond to that sort of question?
Yeah, I think it's, like I was saying, is to find the right balance, and you've got also production aspect to take into account.
Yeah.
It costs a lot to have a whole scene created, and maybe half of the players see it or not. So,
of course, yeah.
For example, your example are great for the Christmas market. We discuss a lot with the team to say, okay, maybe you can't go, but how you're going to bring the cops extra. But as we wanted really the player to have this feeling of this small town, to meet the directors extra, we decided to go to the market in every playthrough. And we had some discussion before the market to explain why Sean maybe don't want to go, but will go anyway because of the father or because of Daniel extra. So it's to find this balance. I know players sometimes want to really say, I don't want to do that, and I don't have the option, I want extra, but it's also the way you write narrative games. Sometimes we can't do a full open world. We would love to have something maybe with more freedom, but sometimes I would say I prefer to stick to some choices to be sure that those ones are accurate with our characters. So okay. I know you kind of, of course you have some frustration. I always have when I play a game and I can't do the thing I'm thinking about, but yeah, it's the way we try to design it.
Of course. Let's discuss Daniel, because this time, unlike Life is Strange 1, you are not playing as the person with the power. Your younger brother has the power. Yeah. So why did you take that sort of route, and what kind of influences do you have over your brother as well? Because you have the little the wolves in the bottom corner. Whenever you do something, it either affects Sean or Daniel or both. So how does that work?
In Life is Strange, the power, the supernatural effect is always linked to the story, you know. In the first season, Max was afraid of growing up. She don't want to grow up and became an adult. That's why the power of rewinding time was linked to maybe her weakness, you know. In the second season, the main theme is not the coming of age. The main theme of Life is Strange 2 is about education, That's why we gave the power to Daniel, because we wanted for the player to experience what Daniel can be if you are acting good with him, if you're teaching, if you are raising him well, or on the other side, if you are showing him the bad example, what Daniel can be.
What's happening to me?
Music is obviously a massive part of the Life is Strange games. I know the first game, people absolutely loved the soundtrack. How does it differ? Because obviously it changes with the character's taste. So Max, for example, isn't going to have the same music taste as Sean. But how did you decide to kind of construct the Life is Strange 2 soundtrack?
Music is really, really important for us. I'm the music supervisor of the project, so I wanted to continue to work with Jonathan Morali from Scene Matters in Life is Strange 2. I really love his work, and I think players also love the soundtrack of the first episode, the first season. And so we will continue with. We have continued with him, but we wanted also to explore new themes, and as it's a road trip structure, maybe have a score changing a lot more than in the first season.
Yeah.
So for each episode, you've got like maybe 2 or 3 themes composed by Jonathan, and linked to the character you meet, linked to the seasons, linked to the environments. It was really important to change a bit with, and I think Captain Spirit is a good example of what we tried to do. So in Captain Spirit, you've got the music from Sufjan Stevens, a folk artist in the beginning, and in the very end, when you see the power and the end of Captain Spirit, you've got this electronic music from French artist Raoul. And it was this evolution we wanted to show, coming from the first season more folk, and with season 2 with electronic sound in it. So it was the idea of also Captain Spirit to create a link between the 2 seasons. And we wanted also to continue to have licensed tracks in the season 2. So like you said, all the tracks we pick are linked to the characters. We want to tell something about the characters with the tracks we choose. So Max were listening to Scene Matters or Jose Gonzalez song, so very neo-folk music, when Sean is listening to The Streets, hip-hop artist from England. So I think it tells also something about the character about the characters. Like Chloe was listening to PG Harvey, of artists like that in Dresden Dolls in the first season. The music you listen to is really telling something about you, so it's interesting to use it this way. And also to have licensed tracks on top of scenes, like in cinema or in movies. So having this cinematographic feeling, I think existing song can add a lot of emotion to a moment, to a scene. So it was the idea to continue like this.
How does the process work? So is it more skewed towards Raoul? Do you really want a song to be in a scene, and then Jean-Luc, do you have to write around that song? Or Jean-Luc, do you write the section and then Raoul, you pick the track to go along with that?
When I'm writing, most of the time I'm writing without music to don't be disturbed, to be really into a scene.
Okay.
But sometimes when I'm listening to a tune, I'm telling to Raoul, listen to this, what do you think about this? I've written this scene while I was listening to this. And I remember and on the other end, sometimes Raoul come to me and say, okay, on what scene are you working? I'm working on for example, for the end of episode 3. Say, okay, this will be the song we will have in the game. So I put my headphone and I'm writing all the scene, all the ending scene of episode 3 with the music. So I think it helped me a lot to see the images I put on the paper.
Sometimes we manage to pick a song very quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because of course I'm not the only one, even though I'm taking the final decision, but I talk a lot with the audio team, with Jean-Luc, with Michel, to be sure that this song is accurate and is a good one. So it takes a lot of time, and sometimes you don't have, for example, the rights, or it's too expensive, or the artists say no. So it depends. But yeah, when it works and when we can have it very earlier. I think the process is quite good. For episode 3, the ending and the justice scene, I knew since the beginning what are the songs I wanted. So
cool.
very quickly we can work also with the camera artist, with Mathieu Baudelin has made the scene with the justice song and the one with Milk and Bone in the end of episode 3. And I think those scenes are working well also because we had the music before and we can really shape the camera, the editing with the music in head.
I would love to discuss music more with you guys, but unfortunately time is not on our side, so we might have to go straight to the Q&A. So if anyone has any burning questions for Raoul or Jean-Luc and would love to ask them, please come up to the microphone right in the middle and fire away. We've got about 10 minutes or so for Q&A, so please feel free.
So my question is, there's a lot of different routes these games can take because the consequences matter. In your minds, is there a canonical or preferential way that a character will act or the way a story goes? Like, First Life is Strange, you can have Max make some pretty drastic decisions that ends in the lives of a few different friends, or have her be completely compassionate and save almost everybody.
Okay. No,
Good question.
Honest, there is no canon ending or no canon path in Life is Strange. Because what we want to do with this game is to let the player add his own experience. But I will say something I've never seen before. There is one canon ending in the first Life is Strange. And this is when you choose to... It's not the canon ending.
What a troll, what a troll.
Your protagonists are usually underrepresented characters in media. So when you take these characters, like I'm Latino, so when I see Daniel and Sean, I see myself, I see my cousins, I see people that I grew up with. Do you feel an added pressure knowing that you're representing characters that maybe we don't see very often? And if that's the case, how do you prepare to, write stories that don't get seen very often?
Thank you for this great question. Like you say, it's pressure. It's always pressure, in fact. Even like we were describing before, as French to create something taking place in America is already pressure. And I think when you write on women, for example, as we are men, this kind of thing, we really have to be careful. And I think it's work only. It's researches, talking with people, trying to understand the reality behind those choices and those stories, and just trying to do it with a respectful way. I hope we manage to do it. I don't think we do it just for the sake of doing it, It's also because we want to talk about some subjects, so we create some characters and a story that will allow us to put the player in those situations, because we really think a video game is the best media to do that, to have asking yourself some question. I think a scene, even if I love cinema, I'm doing animated feature also, but when you are the controller in hand and you have to make choices depending on those difficult situations, I think it's really, really strong. And I think it's why we all love video games also, is to be part of those stories and to have this interactivity.
As Raoul said, we are making a lot of research, and every time I write a scene, I give it to Michel, Raoul, and the team, and we have a lot of improvement to be as much as accurate as possible, as much as respectful, because we knew as creator we have we need to be the best as possible. So it's important for us. Today, video games are, you can do and you can play whatever you want, and it's important for us to talk about minorities or to create character, to show people that there are different people in the world. So it's important for us, and we try to do it the best we can.
Episode 4 is right around the corner, August the 22nd, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you, Raoul and Jean-Luc, for being here.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic. And also, guys, there will be a signing in about half an hour's time at the Titan Entertainment booth 5537. So if you want to catch up with the guys, meet them a bit more close in person, get something signed, do head over there. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting for you today, and enjoy the rest of San Diego Comic-Con. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.